Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about the Empire in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. And what I did over here was play a campaign in Realms of Chaos. You can play that with Mixos. It's not the best experience because obviously the Empire is not designed for Realms of Chaos. But just unlocking the Empire for Realms of Chaos and playing a campaign there was a vastly superior experience. Because while you can play Karl Franz, you do not have Imperial authority, you do not have anything to do with the electric counts. You also can't get any quest items, that is a downside. But I just wanted to experiment, if you will, with playing an Imperial campaign as Karl Franz and see how that would be when you no longer have the limitations of Imperial authority. Well, it is turn 34 and I have taken a lot of the Empire. To be sure, I did conquer a lot of it. Marienburg, for instance, took apart the Bretonnia over here as well. But confederated Toddy and conquered Nuln and Stirland, because really, who cares about Stirland? But all the same, while I certainly was fighting quite a few of the Imperial factions, I was also fighting Vlad and Festus. Yeah, it always goes back to Festus, doesn't it? And Scrag. My experience here, just playing an Imperial campaign where Imperial authority is disabled because it doesn't exist in Realms of Chaos, was vastly superior. Interesting note about Imperial authority. All of the Electric Count State Troopers, if there is no Imperial authority, or at least with Mixos, they are still available in a campaign. You just don't have any kind of limitation in terms of recruiting them. So if I just disband one particular unit here to have 19, you can see that, I have a siege tank available, I have the Knights of More available. Like, I have every kind of unit type, like Knights of More, Mortars, Karaburg's Great Swords. If I go to Gotrek and Felix, I have the Eldred's Guards. Now, this is a really fun experience from multiple perspectives. One, you don't have a campaign that is limited by a really crappy and outdated system that doesn't fit at all within the diplomacy system of Warhammer 3. You want to see a campaign that's focused around an area that is very thematic to a particular race. Play Cafe. Cafe is focused on Cafe. But you might fight one, maybe two Cafe factions, but you'd confederate others. Of course, that doesn't work with the Empire, too many factions, all the electric counts. But still, ends up being a vastly superior experience. Maybe confederations of the Empire should be the easiest to achieve, considering, there's so many minor factions. I don't know, I think the Empire kind of needs that game up better, because otherwise there's no reason why you shouldn't fight other Imperial factions. That is certainly something that does feel silly even here. But outside of that particular aspect, having access to all these Electric Count State Troopers from the very, not necessarily very beginning, it did take a number of turns, but just being able to get this kind of level of variety, look at the variety of units. This is how an Imperial army should feel like. Not just oh, I'm going to get spearmen with shields and crossbowmen, or I'm going to start by recruiting swordsmen and archers. No, you're actually going to have variety. Now, in this case, because I was continuously moving Karl Franz over and over again, sure, I didn't quite get as much variety in his army, but Gotrek, Toddy, they absolutely do have a huge amount of variety. And this is in the context in which I do have a ridiculous number of regiments renowned that I haven't actually recruited. So there's even more variety left on the table. This makes this campaign substantially better to play than the actual Imperial campaign. Beyond the fact that you no longer have Imperial authority, it ruins the experience inherently because you're not really taking territory. Or really, with Imperial authority, you want to abuse Nuln, take over one territory, sell it to Averheim, all that. So it's not really a great system in any way, shape, or form. Beyond that aspect, however, in a campaign like this, just having the Imperial authority, the sheer diversity of units is substantially better. Just flat out removing the Imperial authority system from the game. Even if, sure, I am paying an arm and a leg for some of these units. You see the upkeep of the grenade launchers, you see the upkeeps of the mortars. But maybe that could be the reward, because you would still be incentivized, believe it or not. even if you had access to all of these Electrocount state troopers from the beginning, you'd still be heavily incentivized to gain control over the various states of the Empire, because you'd obviously want to reduce the upkeep, and also you'd want the items that come with it, and the landmarks as well. So like me being able to reduce the upkeep of these kind of units is great. Now you might point out the fact that, yeah, you can already play a campaign that's kind of similar to this, and that's Volkmar. Except in Volkmar's campaign, it's kind of worse in terms of diversity, because you need a lot of those books on Nagash in order to get access to this. And suffice to say, it's one thing to be gallivanting around the Empire, confederating those factions. That's not great to begin with, but it's even worse in Volkmar's campaign just because of the sheer distances required that you need to travel for. Like, if the books on Nagash were in, like, say, his territory of the Southland, that would be better, but it's not. Just having access to the state troopers of the Empire, like, it feels to some extent like playing a Marcus Wolfhard campaign, but with none of the negatives of a Marcus Wolfhard campaign. Like, it's not quite, obviously, like just being able to recruit Hellstorms. Sure, so the artillery problem that the Empire has by default is still there, but the infantry variety, the cavalry variety, or the range variety is very significant in a campaign like this. And this is Realms of Chaos, one of the worst maps, and it's still one of the worst maps even here, but one of the worst map that Creative Assembly has ever released for any game to date. Is actually, it has been actually a fairly fun experience. Sure, the rifts have spawned and I gotta deal with that, but then we're gonna go back to Conquest, and then we're gonna stop flat once we take over the entire Empire, because, well, there will be nothing left to conquer, because then you reach the climate limitations. This is a problem with the Realms of Chaos map in general that a lot of campaigns actually have, but especially Kebie. Still, for like a 30-turn campaign, this was actually a lot of fun, with quite a few twists and turns, like Festus invading with his 2 full stacks, or actually, yeah, 2 full stacks, and now he's got another stack and a half over here, his vassals as well coming in, some more Norskins, some twists and turns, like the Greenskins over here, the Changeling, somewhere around here, the triple alliance of Ostland, Arstermark, and Kislev, now Hochland added in the mix. Gee, great, thanks for that. Well, I can at least confederate Hochland if I really wanted to. See, it's such a better system just being able to confederate factions through diplomacy than the rubbish we generally have to deal with in a Warhammer free campaign. Is just such a vastly superior experience compared to what we generally have to tackle. That really sells this this kind of campaign experience. Like, I can't believe I'm having more fun playing the Empire with the Rift system than I am with the Immortal Empire campaign. But that just really goes to show, and what I want to see here, I wanted to see how playing the Empire without Imperial authority, as Karl Franz, who is in a lot of ways the worst legendary lord of the warriors of the Empire, how playing him would be in this particular campaign. Turns out a heck of a lot of fun. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. A heck of a lot of fun, real diversity in your armies, genuinely interesting campaign for the first 30 turns. After that, of course, it starts collapsing in on itself, but I'll take a 30-turn campaign that's good over the pure misery that exists right now in the game. That's all I had to say. Costine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. And I'm not saying Creative Assembly should do something like this. All I'm saying is Imperial authority is a bad system that needs to get nuked. That is all that I am saying over here. That is simply it. It's no longer fit for purpose, if it ever was. It does have a lot of those kind of problems. Stay tuned for more.